Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this community conversation. I'll start by thanking you for coming on such a pleasant evening when I could imagine there might be other things on your mind, but it really is a real delight for so many of you to come to share in our thoughts and ideas on how we might together improve our community. Please excuse me for sitting down. It's trying to be a symbol of an informal conversation rather than anything formal and a little stiff. Who am I? Why am I with you? I've been invited to chair this conversation. I've lived in the borough for 5 years. My wife and I, our children were educated in the borough, and at the moment I'm an elder at Hampton Hill United Reformed Church and the church leader at Hounslow. Previously, I spent 40 years with many of your children, not least at Bishop Warren School. Enough about me, we're about you and your community. What we're going to try and do is to have, as we say, a community conversation. This borough is, from what little knowledge I have, quite unusual in having this community engagement programme. And one of its ways of doing this is this programme, a series of where local councillors are hosting us and coming to meet with us. The idea is we are to discuss local issues, and many of them you've been kind enough to raise. If there are particular residents are concerned about and require following up by ward councillors, please can you liaise over your personal concerns with those councillors, and there will be time at the end of the meeting. The end of the meeting, what I was told once was the mother-in-law question, when is it ending? We will be finishing at 9 o'clock. And I'm trying a little clock here, so it will be 9 o'clock. We will hope that we have everybody to share their ideas and listen to one another. The conversation is online, and so we are being recorded for plenty. And if you wish to see what it looked like, it will be on the borough website within a few days to rerun this. For me, it means I'm going to be very careful what I say and how I say it. But it's a pleasure that other people who can't be here this evening will also be able to be involved. We have our colleagues who are signing, and that is for folk who need that. Can I ask you, when you do have to speak reasonably slowly. We will bring you a microphone, partly for folk who are hard of hearing, and partly they can use the sound to improve the quality of what goes up on the web for other people to hear in due course. What I thought would be sensible to do is our council colleagues to introduce themselves just briefly, and then we can go on and look at the topics for discussion which you have raised, and our council colleagues have researched a little for you. So Councillor Humphreys, perhaps you start by introducing yourself, please.
I'm Councillor Humphreys. I am a councillor for Whitton. I've been a councillor for Whitton since 2018. I've lived in the borough for 20 odd years. My children were educated here. They've just finished at Chase, but delighted to say just got an outstanding Ofsted. And they're now at Richmond Contents Secondary School. And my husband runs an IT company in the area as well. And so we're very, very embedded in this community, and I'm very proud to represent Whitton.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carroll.
I'm Councillor Robert Carroll. I've been with council the same amount of time as Joe here. I have lived in the borough for 14 years. Had 3 kids go through the education system down here. I'm also vice chair of the committee for the council.
Thank you very much indeed. We have Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sarah. Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be introduced to Deputy Mayor, but only till tomorrow. So my term is tomorrow. But yeah, it's good to have the honour. My name is Councillor Sarah. Yes, just like my colleagues, I am also biblical. I've been a councillor since 2022, and I have been working locally for the last 30 plus years. So it's like all colleagues that you see, we're really embedded into the local community and we're passionate about our unique town hall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Coombs.
Okay, so I'm John Coombs. I'm slightly older than the rest because I've actually represented Heathfield Ward since 2002. We did move into Twitter in 1974 and we moved up here to Whitton in 1998. So I've been around for some time. On your behalf, I'm a governor at Heathfield Schools Partnership in Powdermill Lane, a primary school there. And I'm currently Vice Chair of Planning.
Thank you very much. Councillor Introductions.
Hello, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Fletcher. I've been Councillor for Heathfield since 2018. I have a particular interest in community safety and I'm also Chair of Trade Licensing. And I live on the estate where I've been since 1986. I also, like John, am a governor at Heathfield School and a trustee of the Community Centre.
Councillor Wilson, please.
Good evening everyone, my name is Councillor Michael Wilson. I've been Councillor since 2018 for Heathfield Ward. I live just off Hospital Bridge Road. I have a couple of kids in local schools and I'm also on the education front, so that's my area of interest.
Thank you very much, councillors. And on behalf of everybody, we very much thank our councillors. What they don't tell you is how much time they put in on our behalf behind the scenes. And if no one else says thank you, I appreciate it, having lived in the borough for a while too. I have forgotten to the aircraft thing, I do apologise. There are no fire alarms expected. There is an alarm, be alarmed. But we will be guided no doubt by our community police officer by the doors to my left and at the back, and then we will gather around the back should that happen. I'm reliably informed it won't, but it is in that. Now, part of my role is to encourage as many of you to be able to take part as possible, and that will be that Melissa is hiding over there on a computer because there are some people online, and at some point in the evening, you see me desperately try to see what's going on. It will be to involve some of our residents who haven't been able to be here but are with us online. I just thought understand it would help if you understood what was going on there. Good. I think we're now at a point where we can move into what we're going to explore. There are 4 areas that we'd like to explore. Bailey, who's organised this for us so well, tells me that you've been kind enough to help us identify these. The first one is traffic and congestion. And Councillor Wilson has some responsibility in understanding. He will introduce that in a moment for a couple of minutes, and then we will have a quarter of an hour's discussion before we move on to our second topic, which is the redevelopment of this particular centre. You may be very well informed on that, so that would be very helpful. Councillor Palesh is going to help us have a look at the whole issue of crime and antisocial behaviour, and I think we're lucky living in this borough. It's a real worry, but the reality, I think, is less than the worry. But Councillor Palesh will tell us more about that. And the fourth topic we would like to have a look at is the High Street and the shopping parade. And Councillor Sarah, I understand you're going to introduce that. So the model is an introduction by councillors and then an open conversation. People are happy that the way we will run. When we get to the open conversation, you just raise a hand. Then what I will try and indicate is who will have a chance to speak. We'll bring a microphone to you. Now the notes here tell me you're to use the microphone like an ice cream, but please don't pick it because somebody else is going there. But the idea being that these microphones you need to speak into. So the reason again for that is that our colleagues who are online and for the website, your question and your comment will be able to be recorded. If several of you want to speak, I might try and point and indicate whether you're coming first, second or third, and that's to help our colleagues to bring you the mic in the right order. Okay, so thank you. I'm sure that's more than enough for me, and I'm trying to be merely move us forward against the timings on the clock. So thank you so much. Can I call on Councillor Wilson, please, if you can take us with an introduction into the whole charming area, traffic and congestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. So thank you very much for coming this evening. One of the issues which has sort of filled our email inbox over the last few months has been traffic and congestion. We spend a great deal of time on the issue. And obviously, one of the things which I'm not going to speak specifically about Whitton, we have this unnatural boundary of Whitton and Heathfield, so I'm going to focus a little bit more on Heathfield side, partly because that's where the traffic congestion seems to have built up and has sort of flooded our inbox with emails and things. So obviously you'll be aware that there's been this ongoing issue with traffic along Hospital Bridge Road, along Percy Road and along Powder's Lane, and we have been trying for some time to get some action which would help alleviate some of those peak time issues. Only a peak time issue, so morning, school morning drop off and evening when the issue is as bad as it is. We've had a couple of visits to the area from TfL, so I should explain that the junction, because of the A316, the traffic light phasing is based because of Port for London. And so the timings which then subsequently come back, so they're onto Percy Road, Hospital Bridge Road and Powdermill Lane, all dictated to by TfL's timing. We've also had the issue, which many of you will be aware of, that on London Road there's been significant works taking place, meant that a number of car journeys and bus journeys and everything else are being sort of diverted to avoid that congestion, which has increased the traffic flow through Whitton, affecting both the High Street and Hospital Bridge Road. We've had a couple of visits from Transport for London recently, one with which we went to talk to engineers from TfL, another one where the leader of the council and the chair of the Transport Committee met with the Deputy Mayor of Transport as part of a sort of a borough-wide sort of tour of the borough of particular issues and things which they wanted to raise. So I hope that gives an indication of how important we've been trying to sort of highlight this issue that has gone to the Deputy Mayor's office. We've had a couple of changes which have helped bring a little bit of change, not much, but the Scoot system, which is the traffic monitoring system that is automatic, which helps to direct the flow, was broken on Hospital Bridge Road, so that's now being repaired. There's been a little bit of extra time to Powdermill Lane, not much, but some. And we as a council are continuing to lobby for TfL to change the phasing, which was changed sometime around 2016, which gave priority to the A316 rather than the residential roads. So we continue to lobby on that. So that's a big chunk of the congestion issue which we faced in the last few months. I should say, obviously, that congestion, I've lived in my house since 2011, and the congestion along those roads has been there for some time. And we've raised this again and again and again at TfL, and we're finally starting to see a little bit of movement. As residents in this area will be aware, we've also been talking about there's a traffic sort of scheme which has been introduced into what we call the Wickham Estate, Longford Road, Springfield, those roads, Cobbett, Gosling, and that has obviously had a little bit of an impact in terms of traffic and changes of behaviour and things like that. That review is coming to an end. They closed, I think, a couple of weeks ago now, and the officers are producing a report which will help shape what the final outcome of that is going to look like. I also just wanted to flag that the A316, so when Turin was built as part of that planning development, there were safety enhancements were going to be developed as part of the A316 roundabout. We still haven't seen the final sort of designs of that yet, but we're expecting that work to take place in this summer. It won't happen until the London Road works have been finished, which is expected to be the 21st of July, the last date I saw. So that work won't start until after that. Hopefully it will encompass most of the summer holiday period if things go to plan. So that will lessen the impact as much as possible. And then the other thing I just wanted to flag was just on, again, as part of Turing House development, we wanted additional safety for cyclists along Hospital Bridge Road. And that scheme has, although there's been sort of drawing consultation and discussions with residents about that scheme, we're about 12 or 18 months away from that scheme coming, and it certainly wouldn't happen while all the other things are happening at the moment. So that's a brief run through of traffic and congestion in this area. I haven't touched on Whitton High Street, which I think Councillor Sarah will touch on a bit later on in terms of parking. And that obviously in terms of speeding is the other thing which sometimes gets sort of flagged up, where we kind of work with our colleagues in the police and the community speed watch team to try and encourage residents to take part in those events when they want to. So that's it.
Thank you very much indeed. Those of us who sat in the traffic, that's very helpful. This is now your turn, and if you have some contribution that you would like to make on this whole question of the traffic and congestion in our area, please would you just raise your hand and we will bring up in front so we can hear what it is that you would like to say. Thank you. Could you bring a mic down to the lady, is it a room top?
Good evening. On the subject of speeding, where I live, just off the top of the Hospital Bridge Road, the Hounslow end, it's really serious. When a pedestrian crossing was put on, it hasn't really helped. It's really dangerous. Somebody's been killed and then something will happen. Please can we have a speed camera on that railway bridge? It's the junction of Wingham Place, Hospital Bridge Road. Really serious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hiya. Ditto to that, but also the roundabout by the Nelson, that you take take your life when you try and cross over there. I've noticed there's been an increase in, an aggressive overtaking on the bridge at Whitton railway station as well. I literally just came walking up and there was a road without any number plate and pizza delivery. I don't want to end up like getting the moany person, but there's been an increase in that. I've been nearly taken off my own motorbike by antisocial behaviour coming into the Jollies and Will Nelson roundabout. I'm sure people have seen similar.
Thank you. Gentleman here in front.
Hi, yeah, just to add that the new pedestrian crossing that was put at the top of the Bridge Road, the end we're talking about, is so close to the junction that I have been on. I've been crossing at that crossing. The car has whizzed round the corner and gone over the pedestrian crossing while I've been on it. So that pedestrian crossing has been put far too close, given that people can break turns and try and get up to 60, in the first 20 metres of Hospital Bridge Road. It is dangerous.
Thank you. Melissa, have we got anything from our colleagues on? Right, am I missing a hand? The gentleman, thank you very much. The gentleman first and then the lady afterwards, please. Thank you.
In Hounslow and Feltham, there's a lot of house building, but those opportunity areas under the London Bank. And we're getting 10,000 new houses in both of those areas.
Gosh.
And the main road that links up is the Hanworth Road. There's lots of speeding down that road. Highlighted as the most dangerous road in the borough. There's been plans to put traffic calming on that road for years. It keeps on being blurred. So maybe a little bit needs to be applied for it to be prioritised.
Thank you. There's a lady towards the back, I think. Thank you.
I just think I trump the rules. I've lived here for over 60 years. And I went to Heathfield School. I'm a nurse. It's just that there are rules. There's a yellow box and there's traffic that just sits there's mayhem sometimes of cars cutting in and pulling out.
Thank you. The lady here, and then I think if I might invite the council if they've got some comments to make, because I have a hunch they may have had a few letters about this in the past. It'd be a shame to miss that. The lady there, making your comments, please.
With the same question as this lady, we had speed traffic policemen down.
At the risk of being rather boring, could you start again? But could you, like I have, come quite close to the microphone, please? It's nothing critical, it's just my hearing's not as good as it was when I was 21.
This lady here was talking about speeding and asking for a speed camera. Some months ago we had a member of the police with a gun in Nelson Road, but he told us that it was all a question of money.
Yeah.
And he said, which would you rather keep? Would you rather keep your library, or would you rather have a calming camera?
Yeah. Okay. I don't wish to exclude residents at all. Are there any others of you who would like to make a contribution? I'd like to move on to another topic, but I also want the councillors to have a comment. Gentleman here, please. There's another one, isn't there?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
The issue is not solely related to motor cars. I think the biggest problem is the intimidation that's offered by the delivery drivers on mopeds and also those electrified bicycles, for want of a better expression. I find those to be more of an issue than the motor car.
Okay, thank you. Did I miss someone here? Thank you, yes, please.
Yes, we've talked about new roads and things, but I live in Rodney Road, which is just off Nelson Road, and that's when I come out of the cul-de-sac, and is it Collingwood Crescent there? There's no traffic lights, and there's more and more cars coming down from Hounslow Bridge. And I think there's a lot of hidden roads like that around Whitton that have been overlooked, and they need, to be monitored, or someone needs to do a survey to find out where all this traffic is coming from. And that builds up in Whitton High Street, and then you get a backlog of cars and then potential accidents as well. And that's really dangerous now, because as you come out on that road, you've got Nelson Road, and they're coming along like speeding or going very fast, and waiting more and more to get onto the high street. And especially during rugby days, and when there's an uptake in traffic. So I think some big survey needs to be done around the whole area to see where all the cars are coming from, and then they're blocking the main high street.
That's very kind.
And you can't park, you can't park in the high street now, and it's all.
We'll come on to the high street if we may in a minute. One of the other things I should have invited you to do is to turn your phones off, by the way. It just saves anyone being embarrassed when Auntie Sally rings. Thank you very much. Councillor Humphreys, you wanted to contribute?
Yes, I'm just going to talk briefly about Nelson Road that goes into Warren Road, that goes into Nelson Road, yeah, sorry. That goes in, yeah, anyway. So from Nelson Road, from that bridge that you were talking about just by Rodney Road and Collingwood Crescent, so from there all the way down to the junction where the Apple Nelson is, and then carry on straight down Warren Road and then into Nether Road that goes past Bridge School and the stadium. That whole corridor, as we would call it, has been surveyed recently, because that whole stretch of road was identified as a problem when it comes to speeding. And so what the council have done twice, I think it was in 2022 and then again in 2023-24, they actually did a speed survey of every single road in the borough to find where the problems were. And that corridor that a lot of you mentioned tonight was identified. So a great big survey has been done there, lots of speed checking and all of that sort of thing. And they're looking at the design of the road and what traffic calming measures might be possible. What they're trying to do at the moment is, as I'm sure you're all aware, there's a very large planning application about to go to the planning committee for Nella Hall. And as part of that planning application, the roads all around there, which obviously links onto that Nella Road and that Warren Road, have all formed part of the various transport and traffic surveys that were done as part of that planning. And so all of that is going to be looked at together in order to try and slow the traffic down on those roads. So I think there's lots of work still to be done. These things typically, I'm afraid, do take quite a lot of time. I think it's important for you all to know that we have absolutely already identified roads as problems. We get stuff in our inbox, but obviously a lot of you brought it up tonight as well. So it is currently being worked on to finding the funding in order to calm the traffic down. But I should probably point out, as someone mentioned a slightly strange conversation, the budget that pays for speeding cameras is a completely different budget to the council budget that pays for libraries. So in other words, speeding is a police matter, and therefore speed cameras and any fines that come from those speed cameras, that's all through, it's all through the budget. Libraries is council tax and council
What I'd
budget.
like to do now is just ask Councillor Sears a couple of sentences and Councillor Wilson, and there will be time at the end. And so if we miss an opportunity, we will be able to come back to this, but I want to make sure the other topics are given time as well. Councillor Sears, you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be as brief as I can. I just want to say a few things. I think it's important that we separate just sort of bad behaviour by drivers, bad manners, which we live here, we can see as well. Separate that from things that we can do something about. Where we were talking about having a camera, now understanding that a TfL will only install a speed camera where there has been a fatality. Now, yeah. So, sorry, but I said the police, sorry, I meant the police, yeah. But I've had this confirmed. Now, that is not the issue that we want to end up with. But most importantly, as far as enforcement is concerned, we are very keen on making sure that we do everything that we can to reduce the chance of speeding. Now, I remember we had a community road watch programme, and I personally delivered leaflets all the way along Nelson Road, encouraging residents to get involved, to stand with the speed gun, to try and deter speed motorists. But unfortunately, we ran 5 sessions, and only one resident came forward to help. So we do encourage, where possible, the community to get involved as well, and we'd like you to help us in doing what we can to reduce speeding.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, I want to move on.
Yes.
If I could just chip you a little bit.
I will just pick up on a couple of points that haven't been addressed, the ones that were raised. Hanworth Road, residents may be aware we did a consultation of some changes to Hanworth Road probably about 4 or 5 months ago now. Unfortunately, they were met with opposition. So we said, we listened to what people had said, and we told the officers to go back to the drawing board and come back with some alternative proposals. It's not that we don't think the state should be improved. The resident is quite right. That road is one of the roads identified which has got some of the highest speeding on it. So we are looking for some measures, but we've got to take the community with us when we try and do things. So I'm hoping in about 6 months' time we'll have some new proposals to come back with that. The lady mentioned about Whitton Station and the bus stops, and I couldn't completely agree. And again, we are waiting for some. It's about so there's two issues. One is the funding for a scheme, and the second is having a scheme, and it's a bit chicken and egg sometimes. So we're asking officers to come to us with a scheme, which we could do on Percy Road, which would improve both the bus stop area and also the cycle going down the road. That doesn't mean that there's money identified for it, so we're a bit away from it. And picking up on a point that somebody else raised about crossings, one of the issues is when officers look for where to put crossings in, they also have to, people's behaviour will go for the shortest route. So I accept, and I wasn't involved in the crossing by on Hospital Bridge Road and Nelson, because that's Whitton Ward. But if you put a crossing which is sort of miles away from where cross, they will just cross in the road, and the crossing will be a waste of time. So it's a balance between the safety of the cars coming around the corner and also the safety of pedestrians and where they will cross a road. And I think that's what
I'm going to cut across. It's about in traffic. If we will try to come back to that. I think what we'd like to do, move on now to something I think dear to many of your hearts, and that is the centre here and the community centre. And I understand, Councillor, could you help us with that, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, welcome to the centre, but as I'm sure all of you will agree, and I'm not being rude here, but it feels very tired and in need of attention. And so, in September last year, it was agreed that, and I'm going to read from my notes because I always get the name of the committees wrong, it was agreed that the Finance Policy and Resources Committee, that they allocated just over £500,000 to this area so that we can look at this centre and see what can be done. And officers came back to us and said, you've got 4 options, Council. You can revamp the centre, you can knock it down and rebuild it. You can knock it down, rebuild it, and put flats above. Or, as they always tell us, you can do nothing. Those are the 4 options we were given. And the amazing thing is, the cost of refurbishing the building and the cost of rebuilding the building is a fatal difference, isn't it? And so we took the option of going by what our local plan told us we really should do on site, which is to rebuild the community centre, re-provide a pharmacy, and provide 36 much needed housing on top. And that is what we have agreed that should happen here on this site. And having made that agreement, we spoke very carefully with the Whitton Community Association, who run this building on behalf of the council. So we said to the Whitton Community Association, look, these are all the options, this is what we think we want to do. They work with us to work up a scheme so that we can present that to the public later this year. And so the Whitton Community Association is a small group of their trustees and the centre manager who are working very, very closely with the architects and who are trying to put the scheme all together to work out initially what do we do if you decide to pull this building down and rebuild it? Where are we going to go? And so the association are working incredibly hard, and I want to thank the trustees and the manager for doing all this work. Are working incredibly hard with council officers to identify places where they can go and carry on doing what they do of offering our community spaces to do things. Now, this is being rebuilt, and the 36 social housing is built on 5 stories above. So that is happening. Now what we expect to happen is that later on this summer we will have here at the Community Centre some public consultation that we can give you, the community, some idea of what this scheme would look like. Because what we want to happen is by the end of this year have a planning application ready. And at the planning application stage, again there's another consultation. And the concept is that we will have planning permission by February to May next year. That's what we're working towards. And an awful lot of incredibly hard work is being done by a very small group of the trustees of the Community Association. I know that Councillor, she won't mind me saying this, she's one of the people who's having to do this work. And I'm not going to mention the trustee, I can see if they were here, because that would be invidious of me to do so. But an incredible amount of work is being done with the architects to make sure that the design they do for the ground floor, which will be where the community centre will be, actually fits what the community centres themselves believe they need to be able to function properly. So all that work is being done, and we should by September have a whole load of illustrations that we can show the community. This is what we believe we give you. And the interesting thing, as I say, is that the cost of rebuilding and the cost of refurbishing, the difference between those two figures is quite small. So it was very simple for us to actually say, we're going to rebuild. Of course, it will take about 2 years to, sort of knocking it down, to actually having the thing finished.
That's very helpful, thank you very much. And if some of the people on the trustees are here, I'm sure they'll be interested to hear what folk have to say. Lady at the back, please, can we start with your names? It's very embarrassing.
Don't worry. It's really great. I'm really pleased that they it. But can we look at the parking? Because we all know it's absolutely here, parking. You've got the health centre. The health centre is expanding with lots of therapies and things. You have disabled people coming to park it. With social housing, you're going to have double yellow lines in Hampton Lane. It's restricted parking everywhere around here. So we need to look seriously at the parking situation and look at the overall project.
Thank you. Gentleman at the front, please, on the left-hand side here. Thank you.
I have discussed with the centre manager about having a room designated for the police, a drop-in centre. So I really just would like to put on record that right from the word go, if we can get a room for the police, it would be very, very useful.
Thank you. Gentleman with the cap, please. The mic's just coming.
Thank you. Just a question, in the sense that 2 years is long, in 2 years everything will go up. If the costs go up, who's going to pay for it?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. The lady at the front, please. Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to do a great big thumbs up for this building, which I've been involved in for some years and absolutely love it. And I'm very concerned that when this rebuilding takes place, certain features, like the fact that this building's got a heart, it's got a centre, you walk into it, and it's got a centre. If you go to somewhere like Exeter, which isn't going to be knocked down, it hasn't got that same sort of heart. And as a musician living in this area, and ironically at the centre, these tall ceilings are wonderful for music making, and I hope they're not truncated and squashed. That the centre's got a lot going for it, and the staff are wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentleman with the white t-shirt, please. Is it me, or would a few lights be? I know it's environmentally sensitive, but when you see people. Sorry to have interrupted you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I'm getting any cooperation from Whitton and Rugby Ground about alternative venues and functions out here, because their ground is only used 10% of the calendar year, and you must have lots of function rooms just standing around. And hopefully we must cut rugby football's financial deficits for using their rooms.
What I'll do is I did before, is I'll come back to councillors when we've made a number of contributions. The lady and then the gentleman in blue.
Thank you. I'm to the Community Centre. I'm going to miss it when it's not here. My question is, are there any models of where this has worked, where you've had the social housing and the community centre? Does anyone know of that? Where are there any?
Camden.
Say Camden. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, sir. I know people who use this centre say it's often full and it's very hard to book a room. Have you taken into account population growth expected in Whitton over the lifetime of the rebuilding? Because the London plans states that our areas are going to grow 10% every decade. So we could end up with a lot more residents and don't meet the demand in the area. It's not just Whitton, it also serves people in West Whitman as well.
In a moment, I'm going to invite councillors, if you've got a contribution, I wouldn't want to leave you out, but we'll come back to you at the end of the meeting. Contributions and questions about how we redevelop this super facility. We don't have a heart, it's very difficult for the community to in actual fact thrive, isn't it? Are there any contributions, any questions from our folk online? Councillors, you will have been approached by this. Councillor Introductions.
Yes, I'd just like to reply to the gentleman talking about the RFU. I'm working quite hard with this at the moment. We're exploring every opportunity, every possibility, so that all the people who use the centre at the moment don't have to go too far away, and to identify places which are ideal on a bus route as well. RFU is definitely on the list. In fact, I've got a meeting tomorrow with the centre manager with Heathfield School and various other places. So to say no stone is being left unturned in an effort that we don't disperse the people who use this centre and who rely on it too far away from it.
Thank you. Could I get, I have put my hand up as a secondary school teacher, and I'm sure you're looking at what we're doing for the young teenagers. A place where they belong, a place where they own, rather than the street corner. The youth work I have done would suggest that when there is a place they belong, they own it, and we don't have some of the other issues that folk have had in other boroughs at other times. And I'm sure it's on your list. Other questions? Any other councillors? Are you involved in some of this at all? Councillor Sarah.
Well, if you, thank you. I'll be brief this time as well. It's very useful. I mean, I'm also on the trustees panel of the Whitton Community Association, and I just wanted to add that all the feedback that we've heard, it is really important. We are listening to that, and as John Coombs was saying, when we have that date in September, we will be holding that consultation event to find out what the community thinks about what we've come up with.
Thank you. I'm keen not to exclude anybody, but some ideas have been put there. Councillor Introductions, would you like to perhaps respond to some of what we've heard this evening?
Yes, the 3 points that I can respond on. I'm being told, by the way, by the Community Association, I'm being told the height of the rooms will be the same. That's that. On costs, the gentleman who worries about costs, whenever the council goes into a stream, we have what's called a contingency budget on top of whatever we think it's going to cost to take account of any increases. Your point is very well taken, though, that costs are going up much faster at the moment than they have been in the past. So any costs that we put on top will have to take note of that, because we're very aware of this cost inflation on building that's happening now in this country. And on parking, it is, the aim of the scheme is to retain all parking spaces actually here.
That's not enough.
We have to judge, this is always a very interesting question, how you balance the need of parking against the need of the community to have spaces to use. And it is an issue, it's an issue all the time about balance when you come to parking. How do you give parking spaces to people, but at the same time have the facilities that people need to actually have decent lives? And that is the major problem. I'll finish on this point. The major problem we have is that car manufacturers are now making cars that are too big for our roads. There are 1 million cars in the United Kingdom that are too big for the road. It's ridiculous, and people have got to take that into account. We can't do anything about that as an authority. That's down to the car manufacturers.
Minister, do we have anybody? Okay, yes, Councillor.
I might be wrong, John might be able to correct me on this, but I think perhaps part of your concerns are coming from there's going to be 36 properties built on top of the community centre. What is happening these days is when we are, and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen because I've got nothing to do with this, so I'm probably about to be told off by my colleagues, but we do a lot of what we call free developments in In other words, where housing is built, but part of the deal of that housing is it's car free. In other words, they would not have permission to park a car here. That's been used in other parts of the borough, so it's certainly something that I think would be a consideration here, where properties are built, but people purchase them or move into them knowing that they can't park a car where they live. And that's how it's been handled in other parts of the borough.
Gentleman here.
Councillor, that's great in theory. In practice, what happens is that people park in adjacent streets where there are no restrictions. Around Nelson Road with the shops opposite Collingwood Close and on the corner of Whitton Way. Come down every day, you'll see 60–70% of the parked cars belong to workers in the shops.
Does anybody else wish to make a contribution on this? We made a mistake in our church on the High Street because we got hit by inflation and we couldn't afford it. So we finished what we could, but we had to cut the lift for the disabled lift up into the gallery. And what it's meant is that folk in wheelchairs have noticed that they're excluded and we're ashamed about it. But it was one of the, I'm sure you won't make a mistake that we made. We must be open to our disabled colleagues. Gentleman with the hand.
Quick question, if you've got to make 36 flats here, can't you incorporate underground parking?
The costs are huge.
It's got to be huge anyway. You know, you've got 36 people, you make 70 cars or something. It's got long term, it's going to be effective.
If we put basement parking in, we couldn't do the scheme. It's as simple as that.
Holes in the ground are unbelievably expensive. It is. I think, again, as with our previous conversation, traffic, we will have time at the end, so I don't want anyone left out, but I do think we ought to allow each topic its airtime, if we may, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you. Councillor Gillespie has been kind enough to do some research for us in the whole question of crime and anti-social behaviour in our wards. Would you be kind enough?
Yes, thank you. Well, good evening. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to publicise the police liaison group meetings that we have. They're PRG. They're held quarterly for Whitton and Heathfield residents at St Philip's and St James's Church Hall at 19:30. The police attend along with councillors and it's open to all residents. I really would recommend, if you have an issue which comes up on a quarterly basis, if you come and talk to us there, it's a good place to come to. It's an opportunity to raise issues and concerns and also to receive the latest crime statistics in your area. I also would like to say that I sit on the Safe and Neighbourhood Board, which brings together the police, council, community officers and representatives from Neighbourhood Watch throughout the borough. We also meet quarterly at York House and residents are welcome to attend the meeting. Obviously, I'm aware of issues in our wards, most specifically shoplifting in the High Street and also the corridors down the end of Powder Lane with the Tesco's, which is under constant surveillance. Theft from motor vehicles also continues to be a problem, and the message also continues to go out to these lots of cars. Most of these thefts, particularly on the estate where I live, which is a long estate, seems to be very opportunistic. Down the road at night, when it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're just trying to find animals to go down the road to find out open, and then they'll take anything inside. So I can't tell you, strongly enough to please actually do, not the cars at night. I also would like to say that I would urge you all to report any incidents of antisocial behaviour or crime which you might have experienced or witnessed, either through 101 or if the crime has taken place, obviously 999. As a local councillor, we always try to help you with concerns that you may have, and I can act in basis of the communication channel between you and the police, so please feel free to contact me with any issues that you have. I'd also like to say on the subject that the Safe and Neighbourhood team have regular contacts Centre, and also I believe, is it Murray? Yeah. And the library, of course, yes, to help with communication between the police centres. We also just launched this police service in Medgate, which is very easy to sign up to. There's plenty of these cards in the back of the hall. If you want to sign up to that. A new platform that helps with communication between the police and residents. And that's about it, actually. I am aware that there was a very unfortunate incident on my estate in Urban Avenue quite recently, and if you have any questions about that, I will prefer the police answer it. And thank you for your questions.
Thank you. I imagine folk have got some comments to make about some of these issues. Please feel free to indicate. Lady, thank you very much in the white top.
Thank you. I've been living in Whitton 20 years now, and I have seen, I'd say in the last year, a massive increase in antisocial behaviour. I've mentioned the driving, but this Christmas I saw drugs being exchanged. I did report it to the police. They said, could you point them out? No, I was hiding in Sainsbury's. I wasn't going to be. I did describe them. And then this week I witnessed an attempted bike theft. I reported it online. I've not heard back yet. That was on Sunday. Yeah, and just, you know, somebody's being thrown out because they looked a little bit different. You know, there's 3 examples in less than half a year that I've witnessed personally. I just feel like saying that Richmond is a safe place. I don't think I don't think Whitton can say the same.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I think people here would like to be reassured that Whitton isn't being neglected in terms of policing or enforcement after Twickenham and Richmond, which are obviously more fearless for the council, because I think the ASB is worse on this high street than the other two, especially we used to have cycling problems on the high street, and now we have electric cycling with all the delivery drivers coming up and down, and unfortunately I'm a cyclist, and if you cycle along the road, the number of cyclists using the pavement dwarfs cyclists on the road where there should be, and there's no enforcement of that because there isn't anybody to do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and there are 2 places in Whitton that I don't feel safe with, and I go out quite late at night and I come back quite late. One is the area around the library where there's seating and chairs outside the library, and I know there's been incidents there where there's a lot of home people now that sit, and I'm also the chair near the library when I come back late at night. There's people out there, and so as an older person I feel quite vulnerable, and I think that should be moved away. And the other place is Sainsbury's, because a lot of older people use Sainsbury's. I don't know why, but we all go to Sainsbury's, and there is never any staff there, and it's just rife with people going in. I've been there late at night, and I know there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but people go there and take things. And I say to the staff, can't you do something? And they say, oh, the police won't do anything, don't bother. And I've seen people take things, but they have no staff, and I get very angry because I think that the police or someone, the company, to put staff in, because you go to where you cash out and there's nobody there, you're waiting, and it's very easy for people to go around and just take things, and then the security people try and follow them, and they say, oh, we're not doing anything because the police won't do anything. And this is not about the police, that they won't do anything, so why bother to report people and blah, blah, blah. So you're getting an increase in that kind of behaviour, especially in Whitton at night.
The cycle theft I witnessed on Sunday, it was an attempted theft. It was Sunday afternoon, broad daylight, by the railway station. So it's brazen. They're not going to be challenged.
Lady, lady in the front.
I would like to hear from the police. We said we should ask the policeman to tell us what took place. Well, I think it was Ellen and Avenue. I've heard it was very grim. I think, as a resident, I don't know what happened there. I'm also concerned about an XL bully dog that was marching up and down Pinkham Place. I don't think it's Pinkham Place, but it marches up and down over its owner. And also the copious amounts of drugs that are exchanged in our sort of area. And again, I'm pretty sure they're not exchanged in Pinkham Place. It's quite awful. I mean, E.C. Bill Smith has been around, and I've registered with Met Engage, and I'm encouraging people on WhatsApp group. But if you could, a policeman could tell us what took place on Woodlawn and what is going on with, you know, just to echo what the lady said about the amount of crime and antisocial behaviour in Whitton. It's quite frightening, actually.
Thank you. It's possible that councillors have had documentation and emails about this. Did any of you want to contribute? Come back to
Can I
council.
just come back to the lady talking about Sainsbury's and High Street? I'm going to report that up. I will take that up because it's also comes down to a licensing issue as well, in that staff who work in Sainsbury as part of their licence agreement have to cooperate and to give the police adequate CCTV footage of anything that goes on in their shop. And if that is not happening, then I need to know about it as well, because I'm also the chair of licensing and I will take that forward.
I'm sorry if I could just, so just to talk about policing in general, the generic topic of policing. I think we all know how starved of resources police force has been over the last goodness knows how many years. And so I think we're all starting, you talk about, you know, it's different than it was 10 years ago. The reality is if we don't have as many police in the area as we used to in terms of, you know, proportion to the, you know, the size of the population, we're going to start seeing, we are seeing things. But I think you talk about is Whitton Heathfield being seen as less than Richmond or Twickenham or whatever. I genuinely don't believe that that's the case. The police resource the borough in the same way, whether it's Whitton or whether it's Richmond. They have the safer neighbourhood teams who, you know, are given areas to cover. Actually, one of our biggest problems is not elsewhere in the borough, it's elsewhere in London. And so one of the biggest problems we're facing here is because technically we are the safest borough in London. I know it doesn't mean that we don't need to be paying attention to what's happening here, but the reality is we are the safest borough in London, and therefore often, I'm afraid, resource is being moved sometimes if things are happening in London. Resource is being moved from this borough into boroughs in other parts of London, and we're suffering because of that. And I think that we mustn't obviously use that as an excuse, and we have to absolutely look at how we tackle what our day-to-day reality of our lives are. But I think we have to make a recognition about the resource issue, and we all have to, in our own way, keep pushing to get the police more resource so that we can, you know, more visible policing in our communities. And I just wanted to just say a general point about the challenges that the police are facing in terms of the support that they are able to give our community.
Councillor Sarah and then the gentleman.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Humphries has just said. I just wanted to add a few slightly different points linked with all of this. Now, wherever we are, of course, we want our to be as safe as possible. But this issue about antisocial behaviour, shopping and so on high streets, it's not only a problem that is happening locally, it's London-wide. In fact, it's happening nationally. We keep hearing about on news bulletins about increasing crime and antisocial behaviour. Now, I know for sure in Whitton, because I'm very closely involved with what's going on the high street, the police working with retailers, and they have been sharing intelligence, best practice, and CCTV. And I can say for sure that there have been some arrests as well. As for the issue around Sainsbury's, it's the same. Sainsbury's, Tesco, Superdrug, and so on. The staff have been made, it's been made very clear to all the staff that they should not approach shoplifters and risk their own lives or the lives of other customers that may be in the store at that time. So I do get that. What I have also done is, from February this year, I took on the chairmanship of the Whitton Business Association. And that was deliberate because it was very important to try and get an understanding of what the challenges, what the challenges that local businesses, the local retailers are currently facing. And it's all about now increase the communications between the different retailers so that they can tell each other about what they come across and how what they're doing in their particular units to try and reduce shoplifting and ASB. One of the things that we are going to be working on as well is looking into the concept of having some private security as well to support and complement what the police do as well. And that doesn't take away from all the work that our local safer neighbourhood teams continue to do anyway.
Thank you, sir. Gentleman in blue t-shirt.
If you go onto the Met crime dashboard, there's a tab that shows staffing. And in Whitton we've been undermanned for the last few years. But also the Met's been setting up town centre teams in Hounslow, Kingston, and they've been manned by, or staffed, should I say, by taking people out of the local ward areas for the safe neighbourhood teams. So I fear that some of our officers disappeared to these teams because Whitton seems to be like more of a bank than a town centre. Even though it's a lot busier than the overall demographics would suggest. So I see much more focus on what's happening with staffing and how there's been lots of emphasis on Kingston, Hounslow, but Whitton now, the police can't man it because there's 2-3 officers down. And I think that's something the council needs to have a renewed focus on, rather than just saying it's a short supply overall.
My point, London, more than anywhere else in the country, policing is not really a local matter, it's a central government matter. Of all the police authorities, we're the ones with the least political control over it. In other parts of the country, they have directly elected police commissioners who belong to the local community. Whilst the Mayor of London does have responsibility, is often overruled by the Home Secretary. Because the Metropolitan Police is also the police force which deals with diplomatic protection, royal security. I know this because my cousin, at one point had, and you might still do, I need to talk, had one who was serving out in the royal protection force. So we have calls on our police force, which the rest of the country doesn't, or we don't get the funding that we need for the central government to give London the policing it deserves. This is why we don't have a bobby on the street. Now, before I moved down to Richmond, I lived in Bradford. So my just what feels safe is slightly different to most people here because I remember regularly going past burnt out cars. So I do feel a lot safer in Richmond than the rest of the country, but that's my perception. And I would like everyone to feel as safe as I do in this borough. So we need to call on for more funding for the police because they are woefully underfunded for their job of keeping communities safe.
Thank you. The black hat, then I'll come to Councillor Faleshi, and then we move on, sir.
A couple of years ago, I had an incident from one of the shops. Police came, the CCTV was that bad that we can't do anything. So the shops in Percy Road, how good is the CCTV? How often is it upgraded?
Thank you. We're going to the high street issue. very much indeed. I think again, speaking as a head teacher of a secondary school, we insisted that we tell each other the truth, children and staff, and we didn't have secrets. And I'm sure that if we're able to police know, then that builds up the picture that they have, which is bigger than any one of us will have. So the fact that you do report what you see can only help those who are caring for us. Councillor Introductions, did you wish to...
Yeah, a couple of points, replying to the lady there, with regard to the incident on the Woodlawn estate. I can say that on Saturday the 26th of April, a man was found with stab wounds in Twickenham and unfortunately later died. The police have confirmed that a man also from Elm Avenue was charged on Monday 28th of April with murder. And also this is a live issue and will be guided by the police response in the statements. So that's that. Thank you. And also to reply to Mr. Rolls, I say the name of the team in Heathfield at the moment is up to full strength. I'm aware of the fact that I think Will Smith is on his own at the moment, but recruitment is definitely in progress to get two replacements as soon as possible. Thank you.
I think so.
Some of you may know or may not know that I'm the chairman of the police liaison group that we've been talking about. I've been chair since 2007, and I can tell you that crime in Whitton and Heathfield is much, much less now than it was in 2007. In Whitton, we have got a PCSO, Bill Smith. Some of you know Bill Smith. Bill Smith was awarded the British Empire Medal in the King's New Year's Honours List. His citation was for work in the community and making Whitton one of the safest wards in London. That was the citation. Only 3 people in the whole of the country were awarded the British Empire Medal, and Bill Smith was one of them. So, Bill does a wonderful job, mainly on his own. I think that Sergeant Huntston would agree. But we are a safe borough. And that's why we have trouble getting resources. If we had the sort of crime that some places get in London, we'd have the police coming here all the time. Don't forget that if you get a crime, it won't be the local safety and neighbourhood team person who comes out, it'll be a police car, it'll be the response team. So we do have access to quite. If you've suffered a crime, I know if you had a car pinched or some other crime, a burglary, very few burglaries should be. Had one, it's horrible. But please rest assured that Whitton and Heathfield is a very safe part of the borough of Richmond, which is in turn the safest in London.
Thank you very much, sir. Just one more comment, and then I think I'm going to move on if I may. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to thank the police for coming here. For the job they do, you get a lot of criticism and you're underfunded. And so obviously I don't want to take policemen off murder inquiries to stop them cycling on the streets. But with that in mind, have the council thought about looking at Hammersmith and Fulham's use of law enforcement teams, separate from the police, to deal with lower level crime and communicate with them?
The answer to that in brief is yes, it has been looked at. The feeling is that there is a better way to go, and that is in Wandsworth they have a slightly different system. We have have a shared staffing arrangement with Wandsworth. If the Wandsworth works, we will be able to roll that out here in this borough by a contract. It is something that is actively being looked at. We're not looking at the Hammersmith and Fulham solution, for an actual policeman who works with the Metropolitan Police. We don't think we should do that, because we're already paying taxes to the London Mayor to do that. So we don't think the Hammersmith and Fulham solution is particularly way to go. But what we're looking at is how Wandsworth are doing things in their borough to have officers of the council who do patrol streets and give tickets for certain things. Misdemeanors that are carried out in the high street. We're looking at how that system works. If it's successful there, it is something that we would think about doing here in the 5 high streets that we have in our borough. Whitton, of course, is one of those high streets.
On behalf of residents, I think councillors, can we thank you, sir, and will you please take our thanks back to your team? We do appreciate available 24/7. It is a magnificent service and it's deeply appreciated, although some of the press may take a different view. Local residents who wish to support you, sir. Thank you. I think we're beginning, thank you, Councillor, bless you for that. I think that a lot of the issues that you were talking about there in anti-social media actually re-emerge on the high street. And my understanding is that since COVID, shoplifting endemic, not just in our area, it is a big issue, but maybe our issue. Can I ask now Councillor Sarah to take us into the high street and the shopping parade and how developments are there, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, I wanted to start with a few sort of general remarks there. I mean, we all appreciate our high street, just like all the others. It's really the beating heart of Whitton. It's unique. It's truly local. Many of the retailers are local, and the shoppers that come are also local as well. It has so much. It's very practical. It has supermarkets, opticians, dentists, salons, hairdressers, and many different food outlets. What you may or may not know is that the vacancy rate in Whitton High Street, in other words, the number of empty shops, is the lowest in the whole of Richmond. So it's only 2.5%. These figures are correct as at March this year. So we are very proud of that. As councillors, as you heard in our elections as well, that we, all of us, we live in the town of Whitton. Being local, we are very passionate about doing the best that we can for our local communities. We want people to shop locally, we want our local businesses to thrive. So whilst there are many themes that we continue to work on, there are 3 current priorities that we have regarding the high street itself. I'm going to mention a few of them, and no doubt we'll have some of these as well. It's about, the first one is about improving facility for the community. Second one is around helping the businesses who've had a very tough time after COVID. And the third one is about initiatives where the community, the business and the council work together. To give you some examples, I think one of them I mentioned already about me taking up the chairmanship of the Whitton Business Association. That's really to understand the challenges that the businesses and retailers are facing. Many of you would have seen the Whitton St George's Day parade that we had, and back in April, and we engaged the RFU. They did a much bigger role than they normally do, and the intention here is to continue to get them to engage. We were talking earlier on about community events, about the RFU holding events, and the idea to try and get them closer, get them to have a closer involvement in the town of Whitton. But some of the other things I'd like to say, which we may or may not be aware of what actually goes on the high street itself, which is that we've launched this year, was the Talk and Talk sessions. Now, there is a charity that we've teamed up with. Bear in mind there is a significant contingent in Whitton, which is made up of those who have retired. Some people do feel lonely and isolated, And the idea, the concept of having a walk and talk scheme is it encourages people to come to the high street, meet in the coffee shop, and then get together, have a chat, and then go for a walk, which obviously has benefits mentally and physically as well. We're also launching another scheme which is called Cooking Up. Cooking Up will be just off the high. We'll be launching that just off the high street, possibly in Bury, and that's to coach local residents to cook a low-cost, healthy meal. And again, these initiatives which should help the local community to feel that there is more and more going on in and around the high street. So it's all about getting these initiatives where we get the community, the businesses, and the council working together.
Thank you. Comments about our high street? We start with the lady in the back, and that's where you thank you.
I just want to say, are we going to say if we're going to Tony for this and that, who's now hundreds of years of being in the high street?
The answer is, well, I wasn't sure how common knowledge that was.
But selling it,
yes, absolutely. In the Whitton vicinity, it is something that we are very keen on making sure we do, which is to recognise those who have served Whitton for so many years. So yes, that will definitely happen. Thank you.
Other questions about our high street? Again, just being a boring school teacher, are our teenagers as welcome as they can be? I've found people of my age, my 70s now, sometimes cannot find 14 and 15-year-olds quite as welcoming, particularly when they're in large groups. But story, gentleman in blue.
Can we have an update on the utility companies? Because I know in fact we've got the most noticeable one outside Sainsbury's, where they come up with tough excuses why it can't be fixed. But we've also all over the place where they've done it up. A lot of the reinstatements aren't being done very well, or in normal concrete paving stones, like outside Barrow. Was it put on careful? You know, there was over £3 million spent doing pavements. So we're going to lose a lot of that value, and it's very nice kept.
And if anyone else wants to say something on this, we are very keen on making sure that the utility companies are held to account to make sure that they their repairs in a timely manner and ensure that the pavements are put back in the way that we would want them to. As I understand it, they do have a facility where they are enabled to come back within 12 months and repair the pavement once again. So we are very keen on making sure that the chasing up happens. Initiated that already.
We're just on the same front. We've been told that it will be done by the end of May, or the work will start by the end of May. So, and there's been a shortage. As many of you will know, the stones in the street are this expensive York stone. It's not the sort of paving stones that you find elsewhere around the borough. And there has been a global supply issue of getting this stone, and so that's what has been the problem. Council officers have been pushing the utility companies to do it. They're aware that the one on the high street's been there for, I think, approaching 18 months now, but it should be replaced by the end of this May.
I don't wish to hold you back about commenting on the high street. I think the fact that the high street here is so fully committed reflects really well the church where I'm involved in Hounslow. Their empty shops do look like a rugby player who's had too many teeth knocked out, I'm afraid. So it is a lovely community that you have. But there may be other topics which were not raised. Again, I don't wish to squeeze people if they want to talk about the high street. But if there are other topics that you would like to share that we could discuss together, this may be the opportunity. Have we had anything that troubles this, Melissa? Chair. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Would one of the councillors like to tell us how many dwellings Richmond Council have been tasked with building over the lifetime of this Parliament? And what impact would they see this having on Whitton and Heathfield?
Would you mind, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, if we pick up several of those rather than just have a game of tennis back and two? Is that okay? Thank you for that. A number of new homes. Is anybody else got that, either on the same topic or another topic that they would like to raise? Again, I don't want to keep you from your supper, but Lord, councillors have given their time to listen to you, and I know they want to. Yes, dear lady, do please the ice cream, won't you?
I'm going back to your comment about teenagers on the streets of Whitton. I had a meeting with Councillor Sarah some years ago about the High Street, that our road is too narrow, pavements are too wide. Cyclists, most of whom are teenagers, think Whitton pavements are wonderful to come down. They don't go on the road, they go on the pavements. And it makes it very difficult for ordinary people, especially those with buggies or sticks, crutches, that sort of thing, to walk safely up and down the pavements.
Thank you. Try to create some thinking time for the housing question. Councillor Coons, thank you.
Under the old system, we were required as a borough to provide 800 new homes every year. That was the target that we were set once the London target had been worked out. We believe, under what the new government has said.
I have the number.
You have a number?
We have a
number for what the number that the government is now telling us we have to do is 2,500. So we have to go from 800 to 2,500. Can I just say that the 800 target reached each and every year. Each and every year we reached the target that we were set. However, it was a struggle. So how are we going to reach the 2,500? How are we going to reach the 2,500 is a conundrum that we are currently thinking to ourselves. How are we going to do this? The most obvious way of doing it is to look at the 5 major high streets that we have, and unfortunately Whitton is one of those, and to think, can we put another 1 or 2 story on top of what's there already and go to a much more European standard of town centre than the ones that we have here in the UK. And to reach this target will be an interesting exercise for council officers to think about how we can do it. Because we don't have that much spare land. Most of our land here in this borough is royal, and as such we cannot touch it.
Yeah, just to add to what Councillor Coombs was saying, I think the statistic, another statistic for you, the 70% of Richmond is made up of green spaces, so it really does limit our potential in terms of what we can do in terms of building or housing.
I'm involved a refugee, a victim of torture in his homeland. You have made him very welcome. You have provided him with a home. He feels safe here. He misses his family like that, but he is found with you kindness and care and welcome in shops wherever he has gone. And when the Home Office had to move him to other parts of London, waiting his approval, he missed living here because he found this community welcoming, and the housing which the borough provided has met his needs. And I, for one, on behalf of that refugee, commend you for what you've done. You've made at least one very, very vulnerable man comfortable, he's now looking to see what he can do to thank and serve his community. I think what you do and what our council have done is really amazing. Not everybody makes our refugee folks welcome as you have. It's very special. Anything else? Have you your 2,000 new homes? There is, they're down by the 316, which is closed. I wouldn't dare mention that.
That's in Hounslow.
Oh, no, that's them. Sorry. Sorry. I'm not good on boundaries.
It is a very stretching target that we are looking at how is it possible to meet.
We're going to pick up from this lady, but I think some people have raised these lovely line bikes, and it may well be something where you, ladies and gentlemen, have a view, and that might be one which you want to air. The lady who likes the ice cream has got something else to say, please. Thank you.
It's a small comment, but those of us who have been moved to Isleworth and Brentford not getting messages on our mobiles about what's going on in Whitton.
Right. Okay.
Let's ask you, were you getting them before? Which messages? Are these from your Richmond app?
Well, think like this. I didn't know about this meeting until I went into a coffee shop today, and they were lying on the table in the coffee shop. But yes, I'm on all the Facebook and so forth, but it's gone very quiet, and I know that I'm not receiving messages about what's going on.
I will add to that. We are still within the London Borough of Richmond. We are, for council purposes, we are still within the London Borough of Richmond. But I can't think of any reason why any such leaflets would have stopped. But we will look into that. I'm very surprised to hear that you haven't. You feel that you're not getting the leaflet drops that you used to before.
Gentleman in t-shirt, and then the lady at the front here, please.
It's just to say we're also in the bit to move towards Hounslow. We still are, so I'm happy to show the lady how to update her internet, whatever's after the meeting.
Thank you. You will have a queue of people helping you with your WhatsApp, dear lady. They'll all be younger than me, that's for sure.
We just need to make this really, really clear about these boundary changes, because I know it's been very confusing for all of us. The Whitton side of Whitton and Heathfield has moved parliamentary constituency. So that means that yes, in terms of your parliamentary representation, you are now part of the constituency of Brentford and Isleworth, and your current MP is Ruth Cadbury. Okay. However, from a local council perspective, absolutely nothing has changed. You are still part of Richmond upon Thames Borough. Your councillors didn't manage to get rid of us, we're still here. So your council representation is the same, your council officers are the same, you still pay council tax to Richmond, so none of that has changed, and as far as I'm aware, it's not due to change. They had a local government boundary commission, I think only about 18 months ago, and there won't be one for some time. So it's just to make it absolutely clear that yes, you've just had a general election and there were changes, but in terms of your local elections next year, or any questions you have, or any council representation, nothing has changed and nothing will change.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the floor to line bikes or any other issues that you may do just for a few moments. But then I thought it might be useful if I could ask our councillor colleagues if there are areas of their work where they would like to hear more from us, which would inform them rather than the other. Maybe your inboxes are full enough and there you don't need any more, but that will just give you some thinking time if there are things which you would find helpful that we residents should share with you. But I know somebody who were concerned that these these line bikes. Does anybody wish to make any comment about our manners about where we leave bikes now? Please don't feel you have to. The lady in blue, please.
Yes, I think the whole concept was that they should be environmentally friendly. But the idiots that make them and just dump them when they get off them, that is not environmentally friendly.
Thank you. Anyway, they fall over, but that's by the point. Okay. Is it really of you folks on this?
Yes, I mean there's a conflict. There is always this conflict between the gain, and the gain has been, we've got something like 1,000 miles have been used by people on line bikes in the borough, which means they haven't been using their cars. So that's the plus. That's the plus bit. The minus bit are, as you were saying, we just dump them all over the place without any regard to what they're doing. With us, of course, it's Whitton Station is one of the big major points where people just seem to dump them wherever they like. So it's this conflict that we keep having balance between the gain, which has been tremendous in that we've managed to have a huge amount of use of the bikes, and it's how we can try and get people to be much more thoughtful about how they do it. One of the ways they could be doing it is to say, insist all bikes put back in certain places, in other words, for phasing. I know Hounslow have done this much more than we have. It is something that's been constantly looked at, traffic engineers, to see if they can make it work better, so that we get the gain, which is fewer cars being used, against the inappropriate anti-social way that these bikes are being left on occasion by some of the users.
If I can, sorry.
Gentleman here, and then we'll take the councillors if we may. Gentleman here, and then we'll take the councillors' comments, please. I think several here.
I think the issue with the line bikes is not necessarily those that are used legitimately. It's those that have been hacked, broken, and ridden irresponsibly without any payment are causing probably, I would estimate, a good 70 to 80% of the problem.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sarah first, and then Councillor Hunters.
Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to pick up on the point around the sort of pros and cons of line bikes, like Councillor Coombs was just saying there. They have made a huge positive difference in not just here, but in many boroughs of London. They are a very cost-effective way of getting around, and they are environmentally responsible. Now, many people, I think, are not aware of this, but regarding the abandonment of bikes, I have listened to this, and as far as I understand it, if you were to use a line bike and park it non-compliantly, it would incur you a fine. And that fine keeps going up the more often you're non-compliant. Eventually, you could get banned for not leaving your line bike properly. The other issue about the parking, I'll let my colleagues speak about that as well.
Councillor Hunters, did you wish to contribute?
Yes, it was just to say that we talk about getting cars off the roads, which obviously is great because it frees up the traffic and obviously helps with the air quality. But what I'm seeing is I think it's also helping free up public transport for those that need to get onto public transport. I live right down much towards Harlequin's rugby ground and obviously the rugby stadium as well. And also there's obviously the college there, the secondary school and all of that kind of going on. And I actually think that space on the buses has been freed up because I'm seeing large numbers of young people. It actually does make me smile, and I know social behavioural and not everybody's responsible, but I'm seeing a lot of young people using these bikes in a responsible manner, and they're actually going to places like the rugby games or going to and from college or school, not on our buses, and I'm seeing that people, perhaps our older people in our community are able to get on the buses more because less young people are using them because they're actually finding the bikes cost effective and can go to exactly where they want. I appreciate that there are some challenges, and everybody, not just in Richmond, London-wide, are working very hard to address those challenges. There's a lot of benefits, and I think we to try and solve the problem. We can keep the benefits because they are enormous, the benefits.
Thank you, Councillors.
So I probably shouldn't volunteer that I came here on a line bike this evening, so I'm
We want to know where you parked it.
I parked at the cycle stand as I already parked. I completely agree with the gentleman who said before that actually one of the things we're trying to do as a council is to lobby Lime to change the design of their bikes in order to make sure that they are not hackable. You can tell the ones which have been given beeping if they're being cycled around. So when I parked this evening, I had to take a photograph of it to show that it's been parked. I got told that it was parked fine. And yes, if you don't park it responsibly, you'll get kicked off and you're not able to use it. So it's the illegitimate users of the service which is causing the problem, and Lime need to be held accountable to design a bike which can't be hacked easily.
We've got to learn new manners about the way we use the road and the pavement again now with these bicycles. A bit like learning new manners to learn when we first found email and how we address and how we finish it. Are there other topics that you would like to ask our councillors to consider?
Could I just, I remember we were talking about bikes, we haven't answered that lovely lady's question.
I'm sorry.
Teenagers on the pavement.
On the pavement.
It was just to say that there's been a lot of work going on between the secondary schools in the area in order to try and cut down on that kind of activity. And so, you know, Twickenham School in particular, but I think Turin and RTS as well, they're all working very hard. I mean, Twickenham School were quite draconian about it in terms of if one of their pupils was identified as having ridden a bicycle on the pavement, they were confiscating the bikes and things. I mean, Twickenham really cracked down on it, and I think the other secondary schools have as well. So we've got a way to go, but I know that the schools are taking that sort of activity very seriously, and if it's one of their pupils, they are working with us to try and address it.
Lady in the front, please.
Could I ask about the parking? Obviously, a few years ago, what was happening in a road such as Montrose Avenue is you had people apparently parking their cars, they're going off on a holiday, going off to the airport. We get yacht everywhere. Now what happens? I mean, here's me. I can't get anywhere without this, because I've got MS. But I do like to go and visit an art gallery or whatever, and I can't do the trek anymore from my house to the station. So what I used to do was park, and when I was working even, park, get the train there. But now, I can't even pay to park anywhere. And I can't go out anywhere till after 2 o'clock if I need to use public transport. And I've got friends who live in Twickenham, and the parking restrictions are nowhere near as draconian. Why are they so draconian? Montrose Avenue is empty throughout the day. Why can't you put a few parking meters there? So at least people like me can park my car there and go to the station. Does it have to be between, what is it, the hours? I mean, the hours are very draconian. I mean, if you, even if you said don't between 11 and 12, you'd stop the people that used them all day, because they couldn't park at 8 o'clock in the morning. It really is over the top, if I may say, parking.
Reasonable if you were to come and talk to one of the councillors about particular places where you're needing parking and disabled parking is necessary. If you could identify some of those, it possibly might help out.
No, it's not disabled parking. You know, when you're after, if you're a blue badge, I don't have a blue badge.
I understand.
I've got an autoimmune disease which limits my mobility enormously. I haven't dropped dead yet. When I do, they'll probably give me a blue badge. But not everybody gets a blue badge.
This is true. Please don't hurry to get a blue badge.
But, you know, could we just have a few parking meters? A few more than we've got, please.
Right, I did tempt the councillors to see if there was anything where they would value our comments that haven't been raised. And I wonder if we started with Councillor Wilson. Again, if there aren't, we don't need to draw matters out. It is an opportunity for a conversation, and I would hate either of any of us to feel that they've been squeezed out.
No, nothing specific other than to say that obviously we would request, if you want us to be involved and help as best we can, is to just email us. I'm conscious that a number of people will put on social media nowadays, which I'm fine, I'm happy for people to do that. But if they could also email us as well, because it's really helpful. I spend a good chunk of my time on one of the borough's social media websites for Whitton, and I try my best to kind of go through and see if there's things in there which need to be followed up and reported on. But if you can report, by all means, as I say, put it on Twitter, do email us, because it really helps us to kind of keep on top of it.
Thank you. Councillor Pleasure.
I would, sorry, excuse me, I would agree with that. Please email or telephone, because I think our phone widely known as well. And to go back again on ASB or something like that, you can always contact me and I will help you contact them.
Councillor Coombs.
Yeah, the thing I would add, I suppose, is incidentally, you can always come and meet us on the last Saturday of every month at Whitton Library between 10 and 12, because we're there in the community space of Whitton Library. Both Whitton and our bit of Whitton and Heathfield, we're both there. And so if you want to come to us about specific issues, you don't have to wait till one of these community conversations. We do it every month. And it's the last Saturday of the month, 10 till 12, after Christmas.
And is there parking?
There's parking. There's a huge car park, which is only ever half full. And if you've got your Richmond card, you get 30 minutes for it. You can come and see us for 25 minutes, and it won't cost you a thing. That's the plus point. The only other thing I would say is, unlike my colleagues, I will not now go on certain websites, because I think there is no point in being abused and having nasty people attacking me if they don't say who they are. And I'm certainly not going to use any foreign ones, which means that X or anything owned by Facebook is not something I'm on. So please do not expect me to respond. Please can you get in touch by old-fashioned email or phones? That'd be great. The only one I will go on now is Blue Sky. People on Blue Sky are nice.
As your last act as Deputy Mayor, or is there anything where you would like to contribute, sir?
Well, no, I just wanted to add something else as well regarding the, speaking to us in person. It's one thing about sending an email, which I think some people are very, very comfortable with, but there are some forums which are better done in person. Now, I'm conscious that some of you may not have had a chance to speak this evening, but if you do want to come and speak with us, you can speak confidentially and on the last Saturday of every month at Whitton Library from 10 till 2. The other thing I'd like to say is regarding social media and so on, I echo what colleagues have said. And we do work together, we do try our level best to do whatever we can for making Whitton the best that we can make it.
Yeah, Councillor Carroll.
No, I think everything's been covered. I was waiting to see which one of my colleagues would mention the surgeries every month. I'm glad John did, because I thought I would have to. So I have been told by some people I've seen on the high street don't are coming up to me about issues, but if you want to come and talk to me when you're seen on the high street, feel free. I will probably forget everything you tell me within 5 minutes, because I have to remember the goldfish half the time. But if I've got my husband with me, they'll remember, to be honest. And as I know, several of you are actually my neighbours. So literally, some of you literally know where I live, so but yeah, if you have an issue and it's urgent, you can either call us, or if you see me on the high street, ignore the kids because they ignore me. So feel free to come up and talk to me about the issue. I'll try to make a note of them. Call me, come to the surgery. If it's something you want to talk to urgently face to face, we do have rooms in York House where we can hire out. Have talk to you in a private situation.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, has it all been covered?
It's pretty much all been covered. We haven't talked about Hall at all tonight, so if anyone wants any more information on that and what we're doing, working towards the planning our meeting, then do come and see me after. It's really just to reiterate this whole social media thing. I get quite frustrated because I see questions on social media I actually know the answers to, that I could actually help somebody. But because recently, whenever I've gone on to answer a question, I'm afraid certain members of the community have then come on and verbally abused the media, often about a topic that's nothing to do with the topic that was brought in the first place. I now refuse to answer questions on social media. I apologise for that, but we're human beings, and when you start getting abused online, it's really hard to take. You know, I have young kids. It's just, I don't want to expose myself and my family to that kind of behaviour. So it's just to reiterate, we're here for you. We often will know the answers to your questions. Press the line or pick up the phone. I'm very, very happy to help people. That's why I'm here. But I'm afraid I do not answer things on social media anymore because it just got a bit upsetting, I'm afraid. So that's why I don't do it anymore. So,
gentleman here wishes to make a comment, and then I think we're going to wrap up. So,
thank you. I just remembered something that I meant to raise ages ago and I forgot. The issue relates to fly tipping borough. I'm surprised actually nobody else has raised it this evening, but maybe they live where we do. Where I live opposite where Graham has his premises, and the area on the corner of Whitton Way and Nelson Road, and the verge in between the service road of Nelson Road and the main road has become a recognised dump. And the street cleaners turn up every couple of weeks and gamely sweep outside the shops and do absolutely nothing about the verge nor the rubbish that's left under the tree opposite our place. Thank you.
Okay, so I think one of the things I might be able to talk about that very specific, obviously, location that you've mentioned, and perhaps actually, rather than holding everyone up, I think perhaps just come and speak to one of us, just to talk about fly tipping in general, because we are very, very aware that it's a major issue in Whitton. It's a very complex issue, and we're doing everything that we can. In fact, actually, some of us were in a meeting with officers at lunchtime today on the service roads behind the high street. So, you know, we've got two. We've got one on the Cypress Avenue side, and then there's one starting at the corner where the service avenue meets Tranmere. And there's some real major challenges because apart from a reasonably large section on the Cypress Avenue side, it's all private land. And we've got a real problem at the moment where, so this isn't necessarily even the shopkeepers, because they will lease the shop from a freeholder who owns the land. We've got real problems with private landlords who aren't necessarily in this community, they don't live here, and I'm going to be honest, they probably don't care about this community. They're not taking responsibility for the land that they own. And we're working very, very hard with council officers to try and address this fly tipping on private land. Really difficult. The good news is I was walking down the part of the alleyway that's on the Cypress Avenue side where it is council owned, and it was looking pretty spick and span today, and we have, thanks to my colleague here, worked very, very hard to start getting a regular cleaning regime. And interestingly, even if you didn't know where the boundary is, where the border is between the council bit and the private bit, you can see it now, because our bit has really now started to improve, and the minute you get to the bit that's private land, you can start to see the problems again. So it was really just to let you know so that we are incredibly aware of the problems of fly tipping across this area. We're working hard to try and address it with, you know, various, even we're going through to some legal proceedings now with some landowners. So we're trying, but it's very complex and it's difficult, but we absolutely take on board what we're saying.
we have left and two comments from the floor. The gentleman here and then the lady in front, please. Is there a lady at the back?
Yes,
yes, we'll come to you now in a moment. 1, 2 and 3. Yes, sir.
Can I just say that we're very lucky to have 6 very hard-working, approachable councillors here tonight. I know them all personally, and they work very hard for it. So thank you answer anything. I know Michael, I think he rises to the occasion. But you will learn a lot from Whitton Village and Whitton and Heathfield Facebook pages, and also on Nextdoor. Involved with Nextdoor, but you can always read what's going on.
Thank you very much.
So I just want a point of information that I've heard 2 different times for the meeting, when we can meet councillors. Someone said 10 to 12, someone said 10 to 2. It's not free ever on a Saturday between 10 and 12.
It's 10 and 12 on a Saturday.
Oh, right. Well, that's
you
right.
can see us any other time. You can book an appointment with us any time you like.
Last Saturday of the month, they're saying. Thank you. The lady in the back, please.
Very quickly, grass verges, are they going to be cut after May this year? But last year they were left at August or
You're talking about Hamworth Road.
Hamworth Road and also opposite the church.
The answer is no. We will continue to cut it and on a rural cut basis.
And it's still not going to be done until September.
That's correct.
You can't always see when you're going round the corner coming into the estate, and it looks awful.
We have to give it 5 to 10 years and it will become spectacular.
I don't believe it.
I've just got 3 things I'd like to do. Firstly, I think we would all want to thank the council officers behind the scenes. And been here, and our signers in particular. I'd like to echo your comments. These councils in meetings at lunchtime and now at an evening and giving up another evening. To come full circle, this meeting would not have worked had it not been for you giving up an evening on a lovely sunny evening. So thank you for coming and raising this. It's been much appreciated, and I now declare the meeting closed.